Hello and good day to all of you out there watching this video. I'm Michael DiMartino, the host and producer for Golden Road TV and Radio, and today I'm working in collaboration with ARC, the Alliance for Resilient Communities, and we have the great honor to spend some time, get to know, and to interview David Howland. So welcome.
Thank you for having me here today.
And we got to meet the other day at the farmers market briefly. You're doing some really important work, which has come to light in recently the legal case with the gentleman in Vallejo who won against Monsanto, but also with Michael Parson, who got front page on the Union talking about the effect of Roundup on the organic farms in Nevada County. So you're here, you're a specialist, you have an illustrious history. So tell us a little bit about yourself and your background of what brings you to this work today.
Well, in the last 7 years, I've been working on a biological sensor that monitors the level of life in water or other fluids. It provides an output in proportion to how much life is in the fluids. And prior to that, I managed an engineering department, product development in water treatment, especially in chemicals, chemical controls, and such.
So you're not a hobbyist, you really are a specialist.
Yes.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Great. So thanks for being here today, and let's get right to it. Tell us here in Nevada County and for many around the world, what's happening and what's in our water.
Well, there's a lot of stuff in our water, and it's quite a challenge for the water providers to manage it. This is surface water primarily here. Water treatment intends to remove toxins and to control pathogens, and they do a pretty good job of that, actually. Many toxins, including pesticides, are entering our water, and that's a big concern to the farming community here, as they use the raw water before it goes through the treatment plants.
And of course, pharmaceuticals,
yes.
All sorts of things. Microplastics are getting into the water.
Yes, and the mining industry as well.
Right. So let's elaborate. Again, we could talk for hours on this topic, but what's the difference when we get water out of our tap between treatment and filtration?
Water treatment is much more comprehensive than just water filtering. And water filtering is still absolutely essential that you do that on your taps and your showers and your schools and what have you. Absolutely essential, especially in these day and ages. Yeah.
And of course, chlorine and all the other things, maybe rusty pipes, which all affect us outside of the pesticides and the pharmaceuticals and all the other toxins that find their way into our drinking water.
Yeah, that's correct. If you have pipes that are super old, it will leach in lead, for example, and be beyond the limits.
Right.
Yeah.
So can you give us a little bit of insight of what water providers must go through as far as regulations to bring drinking water to consumers?
They're responsible to meet maximum contamination levels set on the toxins that they're responsible to remove from the water.
And is it true that some toxins can't be removed from drinking water?
Some toxins are much more difficult to remove from water in certain water processes, and they may or may not include those water processes in water treatment.
So knowing this information here specifically in Nevada County, what are the concerns of farmers, whether they're getting water from the NID ditch or they're getting it from the tap or through public utilities? What's the big concern?
Primarily would be the pesticides that are in the water. Water providers are using Roundup in the ditches, and they're approved to do so. Farmers are a little concerned with that. There's also sources of Roundup and other pesticides in the raw water before the treatment plants. And so the organic farmers are especially concerned that they're feeding Roundup to their plants and animals.
Which is what got Michael Parsons his front page interview in the Union, because he is an organic farmer, and he brought to light that, well, a lot of the farms here in the county might not really be organic because they're using this NID, this Roundup and glyphosate tainted water, along with all of the other toxins that are potentially in the water. So knowing that, is there a history of toxic chemicals in the United States that are being used that are directly affecting consumers in general?
Well, yes, that brings us to this guy here. In 1917, What's called the radium girls were hired to paint the radium on the dials of watches and clocks. And what was interesting is nobody knew at the time that that was a toxin. And it took 21 years or so before they realized that. And some of the deceased bodies of the ones that survived glow in the dark. So that's pretty heavy stuff.
So, you know, of course, in this day and age, there's a lot more things that are coming to light, things like the effects of GMOs, the use of bio and geoengineering to potentially slow down climate change. So we can see everywhere fluoride in our water, inorganic food, pesticides, herbicides, insecticides, that there are a lot of toxins that are using in our water. So is there something that we can add to our water or do to our water to make it a little safer?
Water filtration is the point of use. Water filtration is the thing that we must do more now than ever before.
Right.
And it has to be the appropriate kind of water filtration, and they have to be serviced properly. That's what we can do.
Right. So again, we could go on this subject, I know, for a lot of time, but we'd like to get right to the point. We don't want to just bring issues to light here through Golden Road TV and ARC. We want to really give solutions. So what can people do besides the water filter?
Yeah, water filtration is the biggest thing they can do, but they can also vote for people that are more interested in health issues. They can learn and teach. They can inspire others. They can ensure point-of-use water filtration is in their schools. And they can consciously look for water filtration in point of use and make a change there. And they can get involved in any way that makes sense to them.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, once again, you're tuning into Golden Road TV. I'm your host, Michael DiMartino, working in collaboration with ARC, the Alliance for Resilient Communities. I want to thank David Howland for his time and his expertise, and also for some really exciting patents and inventions that you're working on that are dealing with some of these issues. So thank you so much for your time.
Exactly.
All right. And we'll be back.
Let's just think about this for a second. Over half American kids are sick with a chronic condition, and you heard me out there defining on the steps what a chronic condition was, right? It's a situation where you've had a health issue for more than 3 months and that there's no cure. That's what a chronic health condition is. We spend the least on food, the most on health care, give the highest number of vaccines, and have the sickest kids of any industrialized country. So I'm saying, what are we doing? If every pediatrician is not here knocking on these legislators' doors, then I don't know what's going on. Well, I can tell you where they are. They're in their practices seeing kids 1 every 10 minutes, 1 every 15 minutes, and I'm going to tell you, in defense of the pediatricians, I'm one, that you really can't get into this stuff when you're seeing kids every 10 to 15 minutes. It's impossible, and that's what your schedule looks like. 1 every 15 minutes, that's what we're doing. Are you going to get into all this? Wow. It's really hard. So that's why it's really up to make some of these changes. After the end of these talks, you're going to know more than your pediatrician. So what happened to me? And I want to share what happened to me because it can happen to you. And I think I'm really preaching to the choir, to this group, but maybe to not to some of our legislators. When I read Jeffrey's book, I never heard of this guy. But Jeffrey, on page 16, started talking about Dr. Arpad Pusztai. And so I had to read about Arpad Pusztai. He's Hungarian. I'm married to a Hungarian. My mother-in-law was so happy when I started talking about him. And so what I learned from Arpad is that, well, wait a second. This guy was studying genetically modified potatoes in 1996, almost 22 years ago. And he was the first one to look at this problem of genetically modified food. So why am I talking about GM food? We're talking about glyphosate. Is because they're linked. Herbicide-tolerant crops were developed so we can spray more Roundup or more glyphosate. And what Arpad found, and I'm going to show this histopathology slide, you're not medical professionals, you're not med students, but you're not a bunch of dummies. We're going to elevate this conversation. This is what he saw. And when I saw these slides, I went, you've got to be kidding me. Why didn't anybody tell me this? Jeffrey Smith told me, and this is what I saw. When Arpad fed these rats genetically modified potatoes, and then he looked at the GM-fed rats and the non-GM-fed rats, he saw that the intestinal wall villi were abnormal. Now I'm saying, wait a minute, those are the little finger-like projections lining your gut, and that's where the absorption of all your nutrient happens. So you mean to tell me we have disruption of the gut of those rats that ate the GM potatoes? Is that what's causing leaky gut? The one that I'm telling you that I'm seeing in just about every one of your kids, and mine too. What he also found was in the stomach lining of those rats that they had increased cell growth. That's called hyperplasia. Well, why is that important? Hyperplasia is the precursor to dysplasia. Did you all hear my New York accent? Yeah, right. Hyperplasia. I'll spare you. I won't go to. Maybe I should go New York on you. Can I talk like I'm from New York? So look what he found is that all this hyperplasia, precursor to dysplasia, precursor to cancer. And was this the cancerous precursor that we were seeing from the genetic modified process? Possibly. That's what he found. So let me switch gears a little bit. So if you have an herbicide-tolerant plant that's genetically modified, then you're spraying a lot of glyphosate on it, they're linked. Which one's causing what? I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm really not sure. If you said, is it the GM process? Is it the glyphosate? It's likely both. And Sarah Leaney actually took a look at that. So what I try to do is say, why is this stuff not so good? No way, no. Why do I say that? Glyphosate, it's a chelator. You heard Howard talk about that. It binds micronutrients, and it's likely doing it in our kids. So how do I know that glyphosate is binding minerals in our kids? I don't know. All I know is they're eating it. I check their nutrient levels, and they're low. I fix their diets, and it goes up. Come on, people, this is not hard, right? This is like common sense. You know, you could all be clinicians and practitioners here. So and I gave you a study here, just so you know, because everybody wants data. I'm giving you data. Clinical correlation, nutrient deficiencies in kids, magnesium, zinc, are associated with learning disorders, ADHD, insomnia, mood disturbances, etc. Glyphosate is a carcinogen. You heard that. You heard the World Health Organization, the IARC. They did the studies in animals. It's really hard to study humans. And they found that it's a carcinogen class 2A. It would be a class 1 if it was studied in humans. And actually, when Monsanto first brought this stuff to the EPA back in 1983, they found renal cell tubular adenomas in kidneys in rats fed glyphosate, by the way. So Monsanto's known this a long time, that there's carcinogenic potential. And they looked at those slides, and then they found another group of pathologists to look at the slides, and then the data kind of morphed. I think you're kind of getting a theme here on how data can change. Depends on who's looking at it. Glyphosate is an antibiotic. I mean, if Howard's stuff isn't convincing enough, what the cutting edge of research now is the effect of glyphosate on the microbiome and how that changes. Now, how do I know? Because I check kids' microbiome. I do something called PCR testing. I can order a test. It's not in regular conventional medicine. It's in one of the tools of integrative doctors or functional medicine doctors. We can do a test through Genova. I'm not plugging Genova, but that's where I order it. It's $134 if you have a PPO insurance. I can map out the entire microbiome of a kid and look at it. And what I find is disturbing. They have very few amounts of a microbiome. Their levels are low, and they have an abnormal distribution of the microbiome. And depending on what issue they have, you'll find abnormalities such as kids on the spectrum will have high levels of certain Clostridial species, or you'll see lots of strep species in kids who have pandas, or other opportunistic players. Remember, most of that bacteria are in your gut or are going to take over if they get a chance. They're not little happy bacteria here to help you. They're going to go over. And so when those lactobacilli and bifidobacteria are abnormal because they're killed off, like in Monica's study, all the bad players party. And that's what happens. And you see it. And when you make corrections, kids get better. How do I know? Well, for one, they're better. I asked the mom, how's Johnny? He's better. How's his stomach ache? Gone. Is he pooping? Yes, the constipation resolved. I'm going to retire on constipation. I treat constipation all day long. They're all constipated, digestive enzymes, better. Because we're checking the stool. We're doing analyses. Why do I do those analyses? Mom's report could be enough, by the way, but dads want data. You have to show those dads that data. They want to see it. Men want to see science. So, gosh darn it, I'm gonna show my son. So, it's an antibiotic. Another good study about, this one is
excuse
just
me.
off the press,
Ma'am,
and it shows an explanation for
Doctor,
antibiotic resistance.
I have a question. Is it okay to ask a question right now?
Can we do afterwards?
Oh, afterwards.
Can you save it? Will you remember it?
I'll remember it.
Try to remember. Thank you. Let me move on. It inhibits a pathway in plants. The shikimate pathway is a pathway responsible for producing certain neurochemicals, and it uses and it blocks the production of a certain group of amino acids called aromatic amino acids. And we were told that glyphosate wasn't harmful to humans because we don't have the shikimate pathway. And we don't. Humans don't have it, but our microbiome does. And that's key. That's another thing. So, you know, what happens is the aromatics get blocked. Those aromatic amino acids, building blocks of protein, kids can't make neurotransmitters. Is that what's happening? I'm guessing. I don't know. Why don't I know? Because there are no studies. And glyphosate use is discriminatory. This is the last point I want to make. California's poorest counties have the highest application of glyphosate. And they are Tulare, Fresno, Merced, Del Norte, Madera, Lake, Imperial, Kern, and they're all part of the southern part of the Central Valley. And populations in these areas are mostly Latino. So our Latino kids are getting the most spraying involved. And this has been shown to be seen in Salinas Valley too, near Santa Cruz. And those kids have been studied for 19 years out of UC Berkeley. And those kids who are also heavily sprayed with organophosphates, which is not glyphosate, but glyphosate is a type of organophosphate, those kids have been shown to have some of the highest rates of ADHD. And my colleagues who work at UCSF with pediatricians have told me informally and anecdotally that when kids come in with severe ADHD, they say, yeah, they're probably from Salinas. That's how it's become. So I just want to wrap up by saying there's no doubt in the science that kids are tremendously affected by glyphosate and the genetic modification process. This is a no-brainer for me as a clinician to remove toxicants and toxins out of our children's environments. I believe that this is just, as Kathleen Halal said, it's just common sense. Thank you.
Now, if I could introduce Jeffrey Smith, who is named the Person of the Year by Masters of Health magazine. He's the founder of the Institute for Responsible Technology. He's an author, a filmmaker. He had a laundromat before he did all this.
I did? I guess I did.
Anyway, most of us know Jeffrey Smith.
I like to use a microphone. Thank you. We are seeing a pattern here in the glyphosate and GMO world that we've seen with lead, that we've seen with tobacco, that we continue to see over and over again. There's a certain game that gets played where they throw their experts, Bobby Kennedy calls them cyostitutes, and they throw rigged research and corrupt data, and they also have very heavy lobbying influence in places like this, in order to try and convince that there's that our science is wrong, and that their science is right, and that there is no problem. And so I have been fortunate enough to be traveling around the world on the GMO issue, which includes the glyphosate issue, and I have seen how Monsanto captures regulatory agencies and governments. I've been to 45 countries working in this area, and the activists will explain which person in government is the captured regulator or the captured minister or the ministry is taken over. And then I see in their rhetoric Monsanto's words. They captured the European Food Safety Authority, and they actually, EFSA, which is their version of the FDA, they literally cut and paste Monsanto's statements as their own, and maybe change a few words here and there. They've actually been charged with plagiarism. Not by Monsanto, by the public. So what I want to do is talk about how they're trying to defend against the World Health Organization's declaration that glyphosate is a Class 2A carcinogen. which they said it definitely causes cancer in animals, it definitely causes mutations in human DNA, and where it is sprayed, there is higher concentrations of cancer. So it's also declared a carcinogen by the California government. And in France, they wanted to ban it. They're going to ban it completely in a few years. So these are, I don't know if you can see, I'm going to move myself so I can actually read them. So I'm going to leave the microphone for a minute. So this is liver and bile duct cancer incidence. And it's related to, thank you. My esteemed assistant. Thank you, Michelle. So this is a correlation. And I have to say that whenever I show slides of correlation, we have to put it into context. The fact that the line that is blue or purple, which is the amount of glyphosate applied to genetically engineered soy and corn, the fact that it is related to the increase of this cancer does not mean that it causes it. It's correlation, it's not causation. However, when you're looking at from an epidemiological standpoint and you have probable causation because you understand the mechanics that glyphosate causes problems in human DNA, oxidative stress, etc., and then you also see these epidemiological statistics, then that gives you a bigger picture. It gives you more data points from which to evaluate. So it is not irrelevant. It is just on its own, not causation. But I think it's relevant because if glyphosate is a probable human carcinogen, we probably should see some type of correlation. And here we see a correlation between liver and bile duct cancer. And here we have kidney and renal pelvic cancer. And here we have kidney and bladder cancer incidence. And here we have thyroid cancer. And here we have deaths due to myeloid leukemia. And this is discharges of breast cancer. In Argentina, they went house by house in an area that was of a city that was closer to the soybean fields. And they found disease in nearly every house. They found a tremendous increase in cancer.
Hello and welcome to the Source Directory, a completely new and innovative approach to create a list of individuals, organizations, projects, and events that are helping to make our area more resilient and a healthier, happier place to live. Within the directory, you'll find hundreds of different businesses and people who are all committed and dedicated to community building, environmental restoration, self-sustainability, and economic development. Some of the categories you'll find them under is arts and culture, health and healing, peace and justice, food and farm, science and technology. I'm one of the founders, Michael DiMartino, and I'm also the host and producer of Golden Road TV and Radio, which produces a weekly 2-hour TV and radio show, once again, to bring focus to those people in our region that are helping to make a change for the better and to make this area much happier and healthier with a higher quality of living for all of us. Thank you for your time. If you'd like more information, just check out thesourcedirectory.org and goldenroadtelevision.com. Thank you for your time.
Hello, Michael. I am Jessica Denning, and I am West Coast Director of Moms Across America, which is directed by Zen Honeycutt. and we're working for healthier communities and healthy children. So one issue we're working on is to ban glyphosate, and you'll be hearing from Kathleen Halal, who has successfully non-toxic design, where they have integrated pest management and using glyphosate. Other members of the community who want to get rid of pesticides around our families. So again, in Sacramento, I'm Secretary of that, with Kim Glasser, who's the president, and I was legislative director in California for labeled GMOs, where we had Prop 37. We now have GMO-free counties growing bans on the GMOs down the coast from Oregon and to Santa Cruz. Today I'm demonstrating the solar oven, and I'll show it to you. It's called the Sun Oven, and it's Earth Day here in Sacramento, 2018. The Sun Oven is right now, it's 250 degrees. It's just warming up. It will get up to about 330 degrees. And it bakes a yam or potato in about an hour and a half. This is important, the Sun Oven, because half the children die around the world from dirty water. And we sterilize water in the Sun Oven. It comes with a little wax candle plug that melts when the water is sterile. And then the water is safe to drink for the children. Also, their mothers now that are cooking with firewood are essentially smoking 2 packs a day of cigarettes, and the damage to the lung. And there's millions of moms dying from lung diseases from cooking with firewood. The Sun Oven would allow them to cook cleanly at their house, and they wouldn't have to be going further and further into the forest to gather firewood, which is risky and dangerous for women. And so this particular, I'm not selling it, but the All-American Sun Oven, it's all made in the, sound like an advertisement, but it's all made in the United States, except for the thermometer, and which you couldn't find in the United States. The profits go to put sun ovens in refugee camps and disaster areas around the world. For instance, in Puerto Rico, they just had a whole bunch of them go to Puerto Rico there after the hurricane. So if you haven't cooked with solar cooking, look it up on YouTube. Go to the Sun Oven's website and see some of the wonderful demonstrations and videos on how to cook. You'll notice the eggs are just cooking in air, and they come out very tender because the temperature is lower. You can't burn any food in the Sun Oven. And there's, if you look at how down here, there's a little opening here, and this a little dot that comes underneath it that allows you to focus the sun so that the maximum energy is collected here for cooking. So this is the Sun Oven, and I thank you very much for listening today.
My name is Kwong Chu. This is Nevada City, and we're on Bidney Springs Farm. And today we just had a training workshop for Nevada County Grown's agritourism workshop, because we're gonna have a farm trail coming up in July. It's a weekend, so this training is, I think about 60 people showed up. Various farmers, ranchers, and interested parties, and we went through the whole concept of agritourism. And then the second part of the seminar was about the Farm Trail Weekend happening in July. Essentially, Nevada County Grown is a non-profit. I'm president of it, and we exist to promote and enhance the whole ag ecosystem here in terms of production and sales. So we don't train farmers. We're basically an agency to promote for them, you know, advertising, promotion, and ag tourism is what we chose for 2018. The one single event that we're holding in that direction is the farm trail that I was talking about. We have other things like Bounty of the County. It's the best of chefs using local ingredients. We have the Food and Farm Guide, which is going to be better and bigger. Spicier is the word that we use. That's basically what we do.
Hello, my name is Sammy Bass. I'm representing Nevada County Grown. I'm a new board of directors for the organization. Today we had our agritourism and farm trail weekend workshop. We invited farmers and ranchers and local community members out to Bitney Springs Farm to learn about agritourism and how it's hopefully going to be able to blossom here in Nevada County. Agritourism is a way for farmers and ranchers to increase revenue, bring on new revenue streams onto their farms and ranches, help them support their bottom line. With Nevada County Grown in 2018, we decided to take on agritourism as our initiative because we see the benefits that it's playing in other counties throughout the state. We'd like to implement it here. And we decided to do a farm trail weekend, July 7th and 8th. And that is going to be a weekend where we open up our farms and ranches to the public. They can come and listen to live music, get tours of the farm, we'll have live artists there working. Contact us at nevadacountygrown.org and find us on Facebook at Nevada County Grown.